about next steps. And then we'll have time at the end for questions and comments. And I failed to mention my name. I apologize. My name is Crystal Benham, and I'm with the County of San Diego Department of Parks and Recreation. Okay, so before we get started on our agenda, I just wanted to cover a couple of housekeeping items. So first, as you just heard, this meeting is being recorded, and we'll post the recording on our website following the meeting. Second, participants are able to share feedback or ask questions through the Q&A function that's shown here on the screen. You can provide input into the Q&A during the meeting at any point, but we'll be waiting until after the presentation to answer any of the questions or comments that come in. And on this slide, if you're joining us via phone, you can see where that same Q&A button is at the bottom of your screen. Okay, so for our agenda tonight, we'll cover 5 main items. First, we will give an overview and background of the San Diego River Park, which is the project that will be funded by our planned Enhanced Infrastructure Financing District, or EIFD. Then next, we'll discuss EIFDs in general to provide background and information about this type of financing. Third, we'll go over our overall project schedule and talk about upcoming items that you may want to be aware of. Fourth, we'll talk about ways that you can stay involved in this project. And then lastly, we'll have time to go through any input that came in through the Q&A feature during the meeting. So just to start about the San Diego River Park in general, the vision of the San Diego River Park is one that helps connect the county from east to west and west to east via a contiguous trail that will connect from the Julian headwaters all the way west to Ocean Beach along the San Diego River. The river park would also include pockets of open space areas and include habitat restoration in and around the river. The trail would offer recreational opportunities and access to park facilities for bikers, equestrians, and hikers. It would also serve to restore and preserve habitats along the river, establishing interconnected greenways that would support local wildlife. San Diego River Park has been in planning for over 20 years, and the documents you see here on the slide provide a foundational framework to understand the current status of the river park, as well as the overall gaps and what is needed to make this important project a reality. So for a little bit of a timing recap that got us to here where we are today. In March of 2021, the County Board of Supervisors convened a regional task force to identify issues and opportunities related to the San Diego River Park. As a result of this convening, one of the main issues that was highlighted is that there has not been a dedicated funding source to implement the San Diego River Park and Trail. So in November 2021, the board directed staff to evaluate funding options that would allow the county and its partners to complete the San Diego River Park Trail and then return to the board with a recommended funding option. In September 2022, the county board directed staff to pursue an Enhanced Infrastructure Financing District, or EIFD, in partnership with the city of San Diego, which would fund implementation of the San Diego River Park and Trail. Since receiving the board direction, the county has been coordinating with the city of San Diego on the EIFD. This work has included securing a technical consultant and determining next steps to form the EIFD. And tonight I am joined here with several of my county colleagues, as well as colleagues from the city as well, since we are working collaboratively on this project. This map shows the overall proposed trails, which spans multiple jurisdictions, and when complete will be approximately 130 miles total of trail. To date, roughly 55 of the 130 miles has been built, and that's depicted in green here. The yellow line represents the planned trail segments, which is around 80 miles. Approximately 5 of these miles are already underway through private development projects, leaving about 75 miles as our gap, which is the figure we used in our analysis to determine the funding needs for the project. So we anticipate that the trail will look different at different points throughout the region, ranging from paved lanes to soft surface natural trails. There will be a need for bridges and road crossings in certain areas for safety and to allow access over portions of the river. This variability in trail type was a significant factor in determining how much the remaining 75 miles of trail would cost to implement. So in total for our cost estimate, we estimate the total cost to range from about 271 million to 668 million. The chart here shows that the bulk of these costs would come from the potential need for land acquisitions or easements on private land. There will also be a variability in the development and construction costs and a need for ongoing support of annual operation and maintenance costs once the trail is built. These costs represent assumptions for the trail alone, but there could be additional costs associated with the open space preservation, parks, and restoration activities as well. This list provides a high-level summary of the funding options that the county analyzed to determine our best funding option. We evaluated each of these options based on several dimensions, but our key considerations included: can the mechanism generate enough revenue to fund our project? Can it fund ongoing operations and maintenance of the trail? And then we also considered the amount of time it would take to implement and the cost of implementation of all these different options. So our recommended funding mechanism, which was approved to move forward by our County Board of Supervisors in September 2022, was an Enhanced Infrastructure Financing District, or EIFD. This is a relatively new funding mechanism that allows jurisdictions to set aside future tax revenue for a dedicated purpose. An EIFD does not involve a new tax, but rather creates a plan for focusing tax revenue from a specific area in the vicinity of the river park to pay for capital investments that will directly benefit properties that are part of this district. Once we establish the EIFD, we would essentially freeze the property tax revenues at a baseline year. And then from there, any additional tax increment in future years would be diverted into a separate pool of money to either pay for improvements directly or to pay back bonds issued for improvements in the EIFD, or a combination of both of those things. The tax increment allotted to the EIFD can be used for construction, acquisition, and rehabilitation costs, as well as planning, permitting, and design expenses. These funds cannot pay for operations, and maintenance is only eligible for improvements that were initially funded with the EIFD funds. So as I mentioned, EIFDs are a relatively new type of funding source, and they're included in the California Government Code starting in Section 53398. All EIFDs are governed by a Public Financing Authority, or PFA for short, and the PFA is responsible for preparing and adopting an infrastructure financing plan, which is an investment plan for the EIFD. Once established, the PFA will also oversee financing and activities for the EIFD. All EIFDs require multiple public hearings, and our upcoming slides will walk through the planned schedule for those hearings specific to our San Diego River Park EIFD. And lastly, the term of the EIFD per the government code is 45 years after the first bond is issued. So the county and city are working collaboratively to develop the EIFD as a partnership, and both of our agencies will be involved in the development and implementation of the EIFD. Our jurisdictions are working together on this project as we both have a vested interest in realizing the vision of the San Diego River Park, and our jurisdictions have key areas where there are gaps in the trail and funding is most needed to complete the project. Like I mentioned, there are these two components of the EIFD, which we'll be working on over the next year: the formation of the Public Financing Authority, or PFA, and the creation of an Infrastructure Financing Plan, or IFP. The PFA will be a completely separate governing body, which we will establish to oversee creation of the EIFD and then govern the EIFD in the long term. And the PFA will also oversee development of the Infrastructure Financing Plan, or IFP, which will include formal details about the EIFD, such as the physical boundary, eligible investments, and overall objectives. So this is our general timeline. And just for context for the overall timeline, like to establish this EIFD in order to realize the tax base of fiscal year 24-25. And to do this, we need to be completed with our project by June of 2025. So this is really backing into that June end date. For the schedule, I want to highlight a few key dates. We will continue to follow up with you to make sure you have advance notice of any of these meetings and are involved throughout our process. So our first action is planned for this fall, which would involve an action that the County Board of Supervisors will take to establish the Public Financing Authority, or PFA. This must be done in two separate actions, one to establish the PFA and then the second to appoint members to the PFA. And currently we're anticipating those two actions to take place in September and then October of this year. Once the PFA is formally established, then meetings of the PFA can begin. We anticipate the PFA will begin meeting in this November and will meet at least 3 times to work out some critical details of the EIFD. So as I had mentioned, one of the key tasks of the PFA is to prepare an infrastructure financing plan with key details about how funding will be allocated to the EIFD and what types of amenities we would fund with the EIFD. The PFA will then hold 2 formal hearings, one to get public input on the draft IFP, and a second to make any necessary changes to the IFP based on that public input. After the Public Financing Authority has prepared the draft IFP with public input, both the county and the city must approve the IFP, which we expect will take place in early 2025. And then finally, the last step will be another public hearing of the PFA to approve the IFP and adopt a resolution of formation. So now for some details about the Public Financing Authority. Our Public Financing Authority will have a total of 7 members. This will include 3 members of the public, 2 members of the County Board of Supervisors, and 2 members from the City Council. Currently now, through the end of June, we will be meeting with stakeholders and working on a formal process to request application from any interested parties that could serve as public members on the Public Financing Authority. Given that you all have shown interest in being part of this project and process, we invite you to consider applying to be on the PFA. We're looking for people that have both an interest in our overall project for the San Diego River Park, as well as experience and interest in governance and being part of the governance structure for this EIFD. And I'll provide a link later on, but this application that you see here is currently on our website and you can apply at any time now through the end of June. So this shows a snapshot of our website, which we have established for the PFA. So in addition to requesting membership for our PFA, we will also be working over the next several months on outreach efforts to engage with stakeholders like yourself and the community at large. We want to make sure we're providing information about the EIFD and encouraging participation in our process as we move forward and establish the EIFD. So for this effort, we have built an interactive website to inform, educate, and involve the public in the formation of the EIFD. We also have a list of interested parties, and we would appreciate if you can help share our website or other project-related information among your contacts so we can continue to increase visibility and awareness for this project. There are a couple of specific ways that you can currently get involved in our project. First, please visit and share our website to find out key information about the project. This QR code that you see on the screen will take you directly to that website, but the website is also shown here on the screen as well in case you don't want to use the QR code. Second, as I'd mentioned, we have a separate email distribution list, and you can email this distribution list directly. It will go to many of us so we can make sure we're being responsive to any requests that are coming in. And please email us directly. If you're not already on the email list receiving emails from us and you're interested in doing so, please let us know via that email address. And then third, really hope you'll consider applying to become a member of the Public Financing Authority. We have a formal application process. It's available on our website currently. And then outside of that, we're available to answer any questions you may have about the process. And if you would like a separate meeting with us to talk about the application or maybe get support for your application or just have questions about the process, again, please email us and let us know, and we will have a follow-up discussion with you. So that is it for our formal presentation. As I mentioned, this Q&A feature that again you see here under the arrow in the screen is how we can hear from you tonight. Really appreciate you all joining again and looking forward to hearing from you. And Lador, if you wouldn't mind going back to number 18, we can keep that up there. It has the email and the website just in case people didn't jot that down. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. My name is Jessica Geisler. I'm the Marketing and Public Outreach Manager for the County of San Diego Parks and Recreation team. It's a pleasure to be with you. I will be hosting the Q&A session for tonight. So if you have any questions, please take a moment to type them into the Q&A pane. Again, that's right there. It should be at the bottom of your screen and just looks like a Q and an A with a little icon at the bottom. It looks kind of like a conversational bubble. Feel free to post any comments, any questions. Everything here is recorded and our team will take that back and make sure it's part of the feedback process. Also, jot down the website here. Feel free to send us an email. Snap that QR code. That engagement portal that we built is a great way to get involved in all of the different ways that we are sharing this project with the public. And there will be a lot of additional opportunities coming up in the future. And just to do like a quick recap here, this session was set up specifically to kind of explain how enhanced infrastructure financing districts work. We know it's kind of a complex topic, so we wanted to break that down a little bit and provide some more background on this process and our search for funding for this continuous San Diego River Park Trail, and also just to share opportunities with you as members of the public so you can get involved. The way that we see it, of course, and I'm sure other park agencies, is that, parks are for everyone. There's certainly a huge public benefit to having them. We know that they enhance recreation opportunities, but besides that, they have a variety of uses, walking and hiking, biking, horseback riding, the amenities that can be built on site and around parks. They play host to a variety of educational workshops, and those can be hosted by, different park agencies that reside within that vicinity. And then parkland, once it's conserved as such, is actually saved as parkland in perpetuity. And so that's great for wildlife and habitats and protecting different animal and plant species. And it preserves wildlife corridors, which is great for the preservation of those species over time. It also helps us to expand transportation options in San Diego County. It supports regional wellness goals. It also even supports our climate action goals. So there's just a lot of wonderful benefits that come from exploring different options to fund projects like this. So feel free to drop any questions you have or any comments you have in that Q&A pane. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep filling in this blank space with some more information about this project. I can maybe I'll recap one more thing here. I have, I noted in here that, the funding can be used for so many different things, but it would be used for, planning and design, also permitting, land acquisitions. We're looking also at surveys and mitigation and restoration, the actual construction of trails. And then once those different things are built, then there's the operations, right? So we have to maintain the trails and look at different improvements over time. Once all those things are constructed. So it's really exciting to see something like this actually, in the future as an amenity that will be built and that can be used by so many members of the San Diego public. And we're really happy to be able to share that with you today. So I still don't see any questions or comments coming through, which either means we shared so much wonderful information, you just don't have any comments or questions, or it is just such a complex topic that it's just too soon. So it could be a mix of both. But oh, there's a good question here. How many people are on the call? It looks like from my view, and I can't see what the host can see, but it looks like there are at least 22 people on the call right now. And we do have a competition tonight. There is another county meeting taking place, which is an overview of the county budget. So there is a little bit of competition in terms of public meetings. Good question, Laura. Thank you. Any more questions coming through? All right, Susie has a comment in here. Susie saying this mechanism does seem complex, but the effort at a new sort of funding mechanism is greatly appreciated. More trail connectivity. Thank you, Susie. We appreciate that comment. And as a reminder, everything you guys post here, we hold on to this. We keep it as feedback for all of our future planning efforts. So any comments or questions you have, we really, really do appreciate it. All right, Laura has a question here. Laura's asking, how will the agency members be chosen versus the public members? That is a really good question. I'm going to hand this one over to Lenny, who's one of our consultants.
Actually take that one, Jessica.
Oh, sure.
So our County Board of Supervisors will be providing direction to us on this. So they will be appointing both the public and the community members. So we have an application process for all of the community members since the board is familiar with everybody that's on the board. And we need to get to know whoever is going to be appointed from the public. But really the process will be the same. So like I mentioned, there will be those two separate meetings. One of them will be for us to establish the public financing authority, and the second will be to actually appoint the members, and that will all take together both the community members and the members from our government agencies will all be appointed at that one same meeting in the same public forum together.
Awesome. Thank you, Crystal. And for those who want to get more information on that process and how to apply, it looks like the Engage HQ portfolios portal is the best location, right, to find those materials and to apply. Perfect.
All right. And if anyone has questions about the application or how to fill it out, we're happy to work with you. Just let us know. We can provide support.
Wonderful. Thank you. All right. Any more questions coming through? Hopefully we have some avid trail users out there, or if not, we have people who are interested in taking advantage of trails in their area. Well, we are excited to be partnering with the City of San Diego on this project. There are a lot of properties that we co-manage throughout the county, and there's actually quite a few different park jurisdictions that reside within San Diego. Fun fact, there are actually over 2,000 parks in San Diego. So County of San Diego oversees about, 157 of those properties. So there's quite a few different properties, but many of those are multi-jurisdictional. Okay, here's a question. This one came through from William. William's asking, can the funds be used for attached parks or only trails? That is a really good question. So we're looking at specific uses of funding. Looks like Lenny, would that be a question for you, or Crystal, do you want to take that one too?
I can take that one.
Okay.
So our infrastructure financing plan will have these specific details. So the PFA will determine specifically what amenities can be funded with these funds. But the overall vision of the river park is to include both parks and trails. So it'd be a green belt along the river with trails, and then also intermixed with green spaces that would be for park purposes. And then maybe we would have some areas too that are solely for conservation purposes that aren't necessarily a park, but more of an open space protected area. But the specifics of that will be in the infrastructure financing plan to be determined by the Public Financing Authority.
Very helpful. Thank you so much. Okay, Karen has a question here. Karen is asking, is there an existing EFID that closely resembles what we are trying to do for the San Diego River that we can look to as a model? That is a really good question because this is something new that we're exploring right here in San Diego. So do we have a model we could look at for more information? Crystal, is that something you want to speak to?
Sure, and then if Lenny can help me out as well,
Sure.
because she's worked on several throughout the state. So firstly, our partnership with the city of San Diego is really beneficial because the city already has an EIFD that they implemented for Otay Mesa. So we're learning a lot from the experience they've already been through. It's for different purposes than our EIFD, but we're certainly learning from the experience the city went through. And then Lenny, if you wouldn't mind going through how many we have in the state, I know you have the statistics on that, and we are looking at those other EIFDs as well as an example.
Sure. There's not one specifically just for the River Park area, but to the EIFDs themselves are very common. We have 22 in the state now, and there's probably another half a dozen, if not more, being worked on. They can fluctuate from doing improvements such as the parks here, or in Temecula Valley Wine Country, they utilized it for the Wine Growers Association. There was also the largest EIFD, which is the Eastern Coachella Valley EIFD, which was a summary of about 191,000 acres and included multiple financing improvements that did include improvements such as park, et cetera. But throughout the state, they are very common, that many people are looking at these. The uniqueness here is that the city and the county are working together. It's not solely just one or the other. They are working in collaboration with one another, which is benefit to the district. Jessica, I think
You're
you're
muted.
Oh, sorry, I think I double clicked that mute button, so I unmuted and remuted. Apologies for that. Michelle, this question is from Michelle. She says, this may be a preliminary question, but do you have a tentative start date to begin any trail construction? I think you're connecting some existing trails. Of course, this is all based on funding. And Michelle is saying she is a trail user. Could we actually go back to the timeline slide? I forgot what number that was, but that would be helpful, I think, to pull up. Okay, so here's kind of where we are in terms of timeline. So it is a little early to start talking about the time frame, but let's see here. Crystal, do you want to?
Yeah, I can take that one. So this funding mechanism ideally will be set up, like I mentioned, June 2025, but it will take us time to accrue revenue that's coming in from that. So we don't have a hard start date of when we would begin trail construction, because part of that will depend on how much money we have coming in and where the projects are in their different planning phases. However, because this is such a priority for both of our jurisdictions, there are pieces of the trail that are already in the works. We're just using other funding sources for those. There's a couple that are being funded right now through private development projects. So we are doing this to set aside funding specifically for the project, but that doesn't mean we're not also working on the project as well with our existing funding sources. So we are still working on the project. Hope that answered your question.
Great, thank you, Crystal. Okay, our next question here is coming from Mark. Mark is asking, remind me of the reach of the EIFD. Is it all properties in the county or those in the watershed? I thought we had a map, but didn't see it. Oh, great question. Can we pull the map back up? Also, Mark is asking if the GIS shape files are available on SanGIS or Esri or somewhere else. So I'm not sure about the GIS shape. That is actually a really great question. But here's the map.
Take this one, Jessica.
Yeah.
So
go ahead.
In short, we don't have an answer to that yet, Mark. So the geographic area that will be covered, where we'll be taking in the revenue, that will be decided within the IFP. The Public Financing Authority will decide that. However, in our initial assessment that we did about the EIFD, we were looking at a 1/4 mile buffer around each side of this line you see here. So 1/4 mile buffer around the planned trail area. And we're still starting as a starting point looking at that area. So we'll be really focusing on the river corridor with the intention that we'll be getting taxes from the area that would also directly benefit from implementation of the trail. So I don't have that in a GIS shapefile, but I do have these trail segments in a GIS shapefile. If that would be helpful, we can definitely send that to you.
Okay, thank you, Crystal. And is it something maybe we could post on the Engage portal as well?
Yes, absolutely.
Wonderful. Okay, so we can take care of that. So if you haven't already, we can also go back to that contact page, but make sure you follow that QR code or go to the Engage HQ portal we've developed for this project. We will post this map to that page so you can take a closer look at it and kind of see what areas of trail have been developed and what are kind of forecast for development in the future. And it will be something, it's kind of a rudimentary map for right now, but it's something. So you've got it for reference as we move forward with this project. Great question, Mark. Thank you.
Also, it's, we would love to hear from you about that exact thing. That's part of the decisions that we're going to need to make for the infrastructure financing plan. So if not now, at a different point, if you have thoughts about that, about the area we're considering, that's absolutely the type of thing we would love to hear from you.
That's one of the great things about bringing this to you as early as we are to the members who are, or sorry, to the guests who have attended this meeting tonight. It's very, very early on in the project. We just wanted to share the information and to start to collect, public feedback. This is a great time to get involved right now. Let us know what you think. We're in the very beginning stages. So like Crystal said, we would love to hear from you and take, hear your feedback. Well, I don't see any more questions or comments in here. I can give it another minute or so. But hopefully you found this information helpful and it provided a little more background on what, an EIFD is and how it could be beneficial as a funding source for a project that we've had in the works for quite some time, but could definitely benefit a large number of San Diegans based on the location of where this proposed trail is located. Oh, here's a question. Oh, comment from Mark. Thank you, Crystal and team. Good presentation and meeting. Thank you, Mark. We appreciate that. We'll continue to post information on our portal. We will also have future public meetings, so please stay tuned. Follow us on our website, stparks.org. Follow us on the Engage HQ portal. Please also follow us on our social media channels. You can access Facebook, X or Twitter, also Instagram from the footer on our website, stparks.org. We promote everything there. So whatever your preferred channel is, we've got information there to share with you. It's been my pleasure hosting the Q&A session tonight. So thank you so much. Hopefully you have a wonderful Thursday evening. I'm going to clock off. Thank you so much.